So coming up this weekend, you don't have any UFC, but what you do have is the PFL 2022 Championships, and they've actually timed it very well to have it on a weekend where there is no UFC. And I'm pretty well looking forward to this card. It is a pay-per-view event, which is somewhat interesting, and it's going to be very interesting to see how well that goes. But for the most part, this is a very big event. The winners of these tournaments that have been going on throughout the whole year are actually going to win $1 million, and obviously in the main event, you've got Kayla Harrison, PFL's massive draw, taking on Larissa Pacheco in their third fight against each other, and considering Kayla Harrison is undefeated, you can kind of tell how the last two fights have gone. But you've also got some really interesting matchups as well. You've got Stevie Ray taking on Olivia Auburn Mercia. That's a great one. And also, in my opinion, Omar Akmirov versus Rob Wilkinson is going to be a very fun fight as well. If you don't know who Rob Wilkinson is, he had a very short stint in the UFC, including a loss to Israel Adesanya in Israel Adesanya's debut. But Marlon Moraes versus Shaman Moraes is also a rematch, and Marlon Moraes' first fight out of retirement. You've got Jeremy Stevens on the card as well, who was PFL's big signing from the end of last year. You've also got Dakota deceiver, which they're trying to build up, and Biagio Ali Walsh, who I'm going to talk about very soon as he's the first fight of the card, but he's actually the grandson of Muhammad Ali, the great boxer, if you were unfamiliar with Biagio. So it's going to be an interesting fight night. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm not going to waste too much time in the intro. Let's just get straight into the fights. So in the first fight of the card, you've got Biagio Ali Walsh taking on Tom Gracer here, and at first glance, you might see Tom Gracer as someone that's never fought before, and to be honest, that's just not true. I found at least 3 fights of this guy here. You've got him fighting this guy called Willie Schwarzkopf, you've got him fighting this guy called Devin Coutil, and you've got him fighting someone called Benjamin Mesdeth. And what's so interesting here is all of these fights are actually listed on this Tapology page, completely separate to this Tapology page that's listed in the Fight Night screen. And Tom Gracer has a 1-3 amateur record, so I'm not too sure where this 4-2 record come before he lost to Willie Schwarzkopf, but that's okay, we just move on there. From what I saw, I'm assuming this is the same guy. I really hope it is, otherwise I wasted a lot of time watching this guy's fights. He doesn't have the best grappling in the world, and that is what we've seen Ali Walsh struggle with in his amateur debut. He got submitted in the first round against this guy called Devin Rothwell, but then he showed that he's got pretty good strike, and he knocked out a guy in the first round called Bradley Seaver. I am going with Ali Walsh, but please just note, this is an amateur fight, and Ali Walsh is a -400 favourite, which is absolutely insane just for an amateur fight, and for someone who we don't really know anything about. This Tom Gracer guy, there's not really much information about him online, and same sort of thing with Ali Walsh as well. Like, he's only 2 fights into his amateur career. These two have not really fought much at all. They're not very experienced fighters. They're amateurs at the end of the day. They're trying to build up experience. They're trying to get a little bit more confidence in their ability before potentially turning pro. I think PFL's got something here with Biagio Ali Walsh. I think they can build him up to be a pretty big name. I mean, he's already got the Ali name, and it's definitely something PFL's probably going to try and capitalize on later, but I really just hope that PFL doesn't push this guy to be a professional too early on, and they let him develop, because he is actually very young. He's only 24 years old, but the pick is Ali Walsh. It's an amateur fight. Keep your money in your pocket. I really think you should just sit back and enjoy it. It's an interesting fight, and at the end of the day, it's an amateur fight. I don't recommend putting money on it. And the next fight taking place at flyweight, at women's flyweight, 125 pounds, is Dakota deceiver taking on Catherine Corrugini is here. And I'm going to be going with Dakota deceiver here. This girl is a very seriously good striker, and she's actually very good. She was part of the British team that won the International Federation of Muay Thai Amateur World Championships, and she also is a British Muay Thai champion as well, and it does show in her skills. She got a KO in her last one there against a girl that was 4-1. She beat a girl that was undefeated before that, and obviously she's just someone that PFL's really trying to build up and turn into a prospect that they can put their name behind. And also Dakota had a 4-0 amateur record. She's fighting Catherine Corrugini is here, who's actually fought at AKA Thailand, or trained at AKA Thailand before, and she has fought in Asia before. She fought in a Chinese regional promotion, and then also at Spartacus a few months ago. But at the end of the day, when it comes to MMA, Dakota deceiver is much more experienced, and in my opinion, the better striker, and I think that's what's going to happen here. I think Dakota deceiver wins this fight by either decision or knockout, and I think she's going to look good doing it. I think she's just someone that PFL's really trying to build, and I think they've actually got a very good prospect with this one here. Dakota, she's only 24 years old, she's undefeated, she got a KO on her debut. I mean, what more could you ask? Maybe she gets another KO, or she outpoints Catherine here on the feet to a decision, but it's going to be an exciting fight, a striking fight in my opinion, and deceiver's going to get the better in the matchup here. And this next matchup, you've got Magomed Kirimov taking on Glaceon Tibau, a battle of two very experienced fighters here. Magomed Kirimov has got 36 fights behind him, Glaceon Tibau 52, and it's going to be a very fun fight in my opinion. I think that Magomed is going to get the win. I think he was on his way to potentially winning last year and becoming the champion, and then he got knocked out by Ray Cooper III in the third round, I believe it was. And Ray Cooper III becomes a champion and then just had a really bad year this year, which was interesting. But he beat Delano Taylor, who's actually going to be fighting in one of the main events here in one of the championship finals. And he's fighting Glaceon Tibau, who, in my opinion, potentially beat Jarrah Hussein Al-Sawawi, but that was also revenge for the Rory McDonald fight where he won a split decision, which he shouldn't have won. But when it comes down to it, Glaceon Tibau, he is slowing down quite a bit. He doesn't throw a lot of volume on the feet anymore. And Magomed Kirimov is just a very well-rounded fighter. He does have good striking himself, and he can grapple, and he's going to have a decent size advantage as well, because Glaceon Tibau, at the end of the day, is 5'8", fighting 170 pounds, and Magomed Kirimov is pretty big for the division. He's 6'1", he's got a 5-inch reach advantage, and I can just see Kirimov winning this fight. I think he's going to win by decision. Maybe he can get a finish because he does have finishes in the past, but for the most part he is winning by decision. So I'm going to be going Kirimov decision here. I think he makes it look not easy, but I think he's going to have a pretty good fight here against Tibau. Maybe Tibau can surprise me with something, but from what I've been seeing out of him, it's somewhat low volume. He is landing effectively when he does land, but I think Kirimov's just going to be a little bit too much for him, and we're going to see Kirimov get back in the win streak column after his loss to Ray Cooper III last year. And in the next prelim, we've got Natan Schultz taking on Jeremy Stephens, and it should be a pretty fun fight. Jeremy Stephens always is in fun fights, but I'm going to be picking Natan Schultz to win this one here by decision. Jeremy Stephens, man, he's had a little bit of a fall from grace, but in like a weird way. Like, this guy has been fighting super high level of competition. Look at the guys he lost to. You're talking about Aldo, Zabit, Yair, Calvin Kattar, Mateus Gamrot, Clay Collard as well is a very good PFL fighter. And then Miles Price. He dropped down in competition big time against Miles Price, and it was a pretty competitive fight, and it was pretty close. And I feel like maybe that fight, PFL was trying to set Jeremy Stephens up for like a highlight or something like that. But anyway, the point is it was competitive, for in my opinion they probably didn't want it to be. And Natan Schultz here is he's a former champion. He won it in 2019 when he beat Loik Radzhabov, which is a pretty well-aged win. I know Loik has lost a few times since then, but Loik Radzhabov has got really good wins on his record. He lost to Marcin Held, but Marcin Held's a former UFC fighter and he's pretty good. He took the O off Alex Martinez, and then he had a very close fight with OEM, who's going to be fighting in one of the main events, and then he got the win back over Marcin Held. But the point is that I'm trying to get to here, I just don't think Jeremy Stephens is the same fighter he was even just like a couple of years ago when he was fighting Calvin Kattar and Yair Rodriguez, you know what I mean? Like, he really struggled to make the weight against Miles Price. I believe he shaved his beard and shaved his head just to make the weight against Miles Price, and he looked very different. But yeah, I think Natan Schultz should win this one here. Jeremy Stephens is still a big name. Hopefully PFL keeps him around for the next season, because I think that he is still very likely to get like a crazy cool KO or something very interesting. But yeah, Jeremy Stephens, in my opinion, he's just not the same fighter he once was. So I'm going with Natan Schultz. I think he's going to use the striking and his grappling. He's going to mix it up against Jeremy Stephens, and I think that's a very smart idea. So give me Schultz. I'm going to pick him to win by decision in this one here, but it should be a very fun fight. Jeremy Stephens is always in good fights. And the next matchup here is Shaman Moraes taking on Marlon Moraes, and it's going to be, I believe, at 145 pounds. Tapology has it listed at 135, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be at 145. MMA Junkie said it's going to be at 145, so it should be a very interesting fight. And even then, PFL has it listed as a featherweight fight themselves on their Twitter account when they announced it. So I'm so nervous for this. I couldn't find any odds anywhere. I'm assuming he's going to be the underdog, but I'm going to be going with Magic Marlon Moraes to win this fight by KO. And I think this should be able to get it done over Shaman Moraes. He's just the much better striker out of the two. The 4-fight losing streak is scary. It's Corey Sandhagen by wheel kick KO, Rolf Font by KO, Murav Dalashvili by KO, Yadong Sol by KO. Like, the chin's gone, the durability's gone, but then Shaman Moraes couldn't finish a Boston Salmon, who before that matchup had taken a ridiculously large amount of damage. He was coming off KO losses. He was coming off a disqualification win where he got kneed in the head and knocked out unconscious, and even then, Shaman Moraes couldn't finish him. So, I know that's not very good logic, and I am a mess in this prediction video, this one's here specifically, because I'm not that confident in Marlon Rice, but I think he's still got it, man. Also, Shaman's taking the fight on short notice. I think Marlon going upper weight class is going to help. I think he's the better striker. I think he's going to touch Shaman before Shaman touches him. I genuinely think that we're going to see Marlon Rice get back in the win column. It'll be so interesting to see if he continues his PFL career and he goes back to PFL next year, because I believe he has signed for the next season, and he was meant to fight Shane Burgos, which wouldn't have been very fair. Shane Burgos pulled out due to injury. So yeah, Marlon Rice is the pick. I can't say I'm confident. He's an underdog. Maybe it's a pick that gets a lot of hate. Maybe it's a pick that makes me look like a complete idiot. I think Moraes has got it, man. I just do. I've got hope in this guy. I mean, at the end of the day, he was beating Muradov Dalashvili up on the feet and had us all thinking that Muradov didn't have great striking, you know, because of Marlon Moraes. That's the guy we remember. And he arguably beat Jose Aldo. That's up to debate. But anyway, the point is, Marlon Moraes is the pick by KO. I'm very nervous about it, so let's just move on. And now we're into the main card. Now we're into the championship 5-round fights, and the first one to start the night, to my surprise, in my opinion, this should be up higher on the card because I'm so excited for it. Rob Wilkinson taking on Omar Akmirov, and I'm picking Rob Wilkinson to win by knockout. Rob Wilkinson has leveled up amazingly well since his PFL days, his UFC days, and he's looking just so much better than he did. You know, this guy come in here, he was 11-0, and then he lost his debut, and then he lost to Israel Adesanya, and then he got cut, and then he took on a couple of kickboxing fights. He threw in a boxing fight in there, and he won a few fights by KO in the MMA scene. Come out here, beat Bruce Soto by KO, which I predicted. He beat Victor Pasta by KO, which I predicted. And then he beat Delano Monte by KO, which I predicted again. But anyway, the point is, I think that he's going to knock out Omar Akmirov. Omar Akmirov is very good, and this guy has power in the hands. He knocked out poor Victor Pasta out brutally, and then Victor Pasta bounced back, and I believe he fought Rob Wilkinson after Omar Akmirov knocked him out. So 2 months after Victor Pasta got knocked out by Omar Akmirov, he fought Rob Wilkinson and he got knocked out again. Oh, PFL tournament is so brutal because they don't take into account the fact that people need to take time off after a knockout. Like, they just throw them back in there, the tournament, you know, the next bracket. But anyway, the point is, I'm picking Rob Wilkinson. I think he's the far superior striker technically here. Omar Akmirov did beat Josh Silveira, which is a really good win because Silveira is someone that PFL was trying to build up and try and make a name out of. Silveira has had a very good professional career before then as well. You know, he didn't have the best start to his PFL career. He did lose to Jordan Young, who unfortunately has passed away, but Jordan Young was a very good prospect himself and a good win over Omar Akmirov. And he had a very long UFC career. We're talking about a 14-fight UFC career, maybe 15 fights. A draw against title challenger Marvin Vettori. A win over Tim Boach. A win over Zach Cummings. Win over Ian Heinisch, who's ranked right now. And also, I was going to go back down a little bit here. And a loss to Gunnar Nelson as well. In his first loss in the UFC. But Omar Akmirov, his grappling is pretty good. But I don't know if I can trust him to use it against Rob Wilkinson, and even then I think I can just trust Rob Wilkinson to keep the fight on the feet and use that superior technical striking. He's got a massive reach advantage as well, massive height advantage, massive size advantage in general. You know, Omar Akmirov, we're talking about a blown up middleweight here. He moved up in weight classes to fight in the PFL. Rob Wilkinson's more natural 205er. He did fight at 185 himself, so it's a little bit hypocritical me saying that. But Rob Wilkinson's just a more natural light heavyweight in my opinion. He's pretty big compared to Omari anyway. He's got really good power, he's got really good technical striking, massive reach advantage, size advantage as well in my opinion. I think we're going to see Rob Wilkinson get a KO. I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm real happy for Rob. You know, he's really turned his career around in some way. You know, he was getting cut from the UFC to potentially winning $1 million. So good for Rob Wilkinson. I'm looking forward to this fight. It's going to be a banger either way. In my opinion, either way, it's also going to finish by KO. It's 5 rounds. These guys have 5 rounds to work. It's 5 rounds to knock each other out. If something lands, one of them's going out. It's going to be fun. And now we move on to the next matchup, which is going to be at 170 pounds for the $1 million in the final. You got Delano Taylor taking on Sadabu Sai. And Sadabu Sai, in my opinion, was someone that I wasn't too high on. I really didn't expect Sadabu Sai to be at this point of the PFL, and he's already in the finals, man. He's fighting for $1 million, and he's almost 36 years old. Really turned his career around, you know, and he's had a very successful one at that, especially recently. He beat Nikolai Alexei by split decision. He beat Rory McDonald, which is always a great win, even though Rory McDonald is a little bit older now. He beat Carlos Leal as well, and Carlos Leal is a very good fighter who beat Ray Cooper III, which is very interesting, but on short notice as well, by the way. And Delano Taylor, speaking of short notice, this guy's in the final because he took on Rory McDonald on short notice and knocked him out pretty early into the fight. Punched his ticket into the finals, even though he had a win over Magomed Kirimov. Depending on the rounds you get finishes, depends on the points system in the PFL. It's not that confusing. But the point is, Delano Taylor, he has a loss in there this year against Magomed Kirimov, but he's in the final against Sadibusai. And as I kind of mentioned in the last one, you've got 25 minutes to land something, and I feel like if Delano Taylor lands something, he's going to find the KO, and I'm picking him to win this matchup here. He is an underdog here, either the first or second underdog of the card for my picks here. Sadibusai, he's a great lengthy striker, and that is how he fights, and he fights very well doing so, but he doesn't necessarily have the power to finish the fight, and I feel like Delano Taylor does, and I feel like Delano Taylor's going to land, and we're going to get another KO, in my opinion. Both guys as well, very long and lengthy for the division. They haven't fought anyone as long and lengthy as them, in my opinion, for a while. You were talking about an 80-inch reach for Sadibusai, 77-inch reach for Delano Taylor, which is pretty massive, and they're both 6'3". I'm going with Taylor to win by KO here. He's got 25 minutes to land something. He did land a KO blow on Roy McDonald, and he also has not got a KO in a long time. Anyway, the point is, I feel like Delano Taylor just hits harder, and I think that's what's going to matter. Even if it goes to a decision, I'm picking Delano Taylor to win by decision or KO anyway. I think he's going to be the one landing with the hardest shots. Sadibusai, he's a very rangy kickboxer. He does that style very well, but Delano Taylor's the younger, hungrier, up-and-coming guy. I think he's going to make something happen here, so give me Delano Taylor to win. And you know how I was saying that Marlon Moraes has come out of retirement to fight in the PFL? So has Stevie Ray. Stevie Ray come out of retirement after about 2 years away, and then he fought Alex Martinez. Unfortunately did lose that belt, but then had a massive comeback fight, and he submitted Anthony Pettis by that modified twister. They've got a fancy name for it that's not modified twister, which has slipped my mind, but it was weird. It was like squeezing on his ribs and squeezing on his body, and it was a crazy cool submission, and then they just did a rematch anyway because of the way that the tournament bracket lined up, and Stevie Ray ended up beating Anthony Pettis in that one, so he's got 2 wins over Anthony Pettis. And Anthony Pettis, unfortunately, is just another guy that's had a big fall from grace, unfortunately. But he's taking on Olivia Auburn Mercier, who is the pick here. We're going to see Olivia Auburn Mercier here. I believe he's going to use his wrestling, he's going to use his top control. And if he can stay safe, because Stevie Ray can't throw up submissions from the bottom, and he can just throw up wild submissions in general, because he did against Anthony Pettis. But I think that Olivia Auburn Mercier here, I think they should be able to get the win over Stevie Ray here. It would be a massive comeback story, happy story for Stevie Ray to come out of retirement after retiring after a win over Michael Johnson, one of the greatest fighters of all time. And then coming back and winning $1 million for PFL, that would be awesome. But I think we're going to see the wrestling out of Olivia Auburn Mercier. I think he's going to keep the fight on the feet. Sorry, not on the feet. I think he's going to, keep the fight on the feet if he wants it to, but also take down Stevie Ray and use that top control. He's also a former UFC fighter as well, which I was going to mention. And look at this losing streak. We're talking about a 2018 Alexander Hernandez, Gilbert Burns, and Arman Sarukian. I mean, they're not bad losses to have on your record. And yeah, he come into PFL, and he's had a very successful PFL 2022 season. I think he's going to win the $1 million here. So give me Auburn Mercier by decision here. I think he's going to use his top control, and I think he's going to grind out Stevie Ray over the course of 25 minutes. And now we move on to another main card fight, which is not a final. This is the only non-final of the tournament main card fight. Julia Budd taking on Aspen Laird. 3 5-minute rounds at women's 145. I had to double check that before recording because PFL doesn't actually have a women's 145 division. Maybe they're going to create something next year because they do have women's flyweights, former women's flyweights fighting at 155 pounds because, anyway, I'll get to that in the main event. But, yeah, Julia Budd taking on Aspen Laird. In my opinion, Aspen Laird should win this one here, but Julia Budd, she's just a very underrated fighter. Before she lost to Gina Fabian, look at the ladies that this girl lost to. We're talking about Chris Cyborg, Ronda Rousey, and Amanda Nunes. Arguably the 3 best female fighters of all time, aside from maybe Valentina Shevchenko, Chris Cyborg, Ronda Rousey, and Amanda Nunes. maybe you can make an argument for Ronda Rousey, but you can't argue what Ronda Rousey did in the short career that she did have. But the point is, Julia Budd's no joke, but in my opinion, she's almost 40 years old. I think she's really starting to slow down. She lost to Gina Fabian, where Gina Fabian was just way bigger than her, to be fair. Gina Fabian's like 6'1". She even missed weight at 155 pounds. I think she weighed like 157 pounds on the scales. And talking about people that missed weight, Aspen Ladd's missed weight so many times. She's had so many cancelled fights, and I think the UFC eventually just had enough of her. She went 1-3 in the last 4. And I think UFC were like, man, you just keep missing weight. It's time for you to go. So now she's PFL's problem, and hopefully she can make the weight. And she lost to Raquel Pennington, who's pretty decent. Norman Dumont, who's also pretty decent, and Jermaine Durandamy, who's also pretty decent. But I think she's gonna wrestle with Julia Budd here. It'd be interesting to see. Maybe Julia Budd can make something happen, because as I said, I think she is underrated. But at the end of the day, she's almost 40 years old, and I think we're going to see Aspen Ladd win a decision. I don't expect it to be the most exciting fight at all, but it will be very interesting to see how Aspen Ladd does against someone like Julia Budd, who is a pretty well-known name, but also a very underrated fighter, just in my opinion as well. So it'll be interesting to see what Aspen Ladd does. Maybe she fights at women's 155 pounds next year, because Kayla Harrison isn't actually going to be there. So maybe Aspen Ladd's going to be the new face of women's 155 next year. It'll be interesting to see. Maybe we can find that out from this fight. But I don't want to waste too much time on this one. I want to move on to the other tournament finals. So let's just move on there. And now we move on to Ante Delija taking on Mateo Scheffel. And I'm going to be picking Ante Delija to win by KO. And he's actually already done it. He knocked out Mateo Scheffel in the second round in their fight only 6 months ago. And this is so weird. Like, Mateo Scheffel, he's a guy that lost to Azamat Murzakanov by KO on Dana White's Contender Series at 205 pounds, and now he's fighting at 260 pounds. Like, this guy has really ballooned up into the weight class. And what's even weirder is he beat Bruno Capelloza, who won in the 2021 season and just looked amazing in doing so. Bruno Capelloza is a guy with so many KO wins. I believe he had like 14 KO wins coming into that matchup. And Mateo Scheffel has 6 KO losses. Like, this guy's chin is scary and not something to trust. I think Ante Delija is going to chin him again. He's already done it before. He's got KO power. He does have a pretty decent clinch as well. And he's massive. He's 6'5" with a 79-inch reach. He's bigger than Scheffel, who's a former light heavyweight. In fact, there might even be a couple of fights even lower down, maybe even at 185 earlier on in his career. But we're talking about a guy that has actually fought pretty decent competition. Acacio dos Santos was on Dana White's Contender Series. He lost to Azamat Murzakanov by KO. That does happen at 205 pounds, and now he's just ballooned all the way up to 260 pounds, and I think that Ante Delija is going to knock him out. He's done it before. It was his, his third to last fight. He knocked out Mateo Scheffel to start off the season, beat Shelton Grace by decision, knocked out Renan Ferreira, and Renan Ferreira is a guy that PFL is really trying to build up as well, and that's a very good win. I think we're going to see Ante Delija finish off Mateo Scheffel, whether it is with his clinch and his grappling and his wrestling, or he's going to get a KO on the feet, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think Ante Delija chins this guy in the first 3 rounds. He's already done it before in the second round. I don't see why he can't do it again. As I said, Scheffel's got 6 KO losses out of 8 losses. That's scary. I don't trust that durability. I trust the power of Delija. I think he's going to get it done by KO. Looking forward to it as well. Going to be a good fight. And now we move on to Brendan Lofton taking on Bubba Jenkins, and I'm going to be picking Bubba Jenkins in this one here. He's got really good wrestling. He's pretty big for 145 pounds as well. He's a massive guy. And I think he's going to be able to use that wrestling to beat Brendan Lofton here. I think Lofton does have the striking advantage. But I'm just so much more impressed by Bubba Jenkins' 2022 run than I am by Brendan Lofton. So let's just look at their wins. Let's just look at them on paper. He beat Kyle Bochniak, I believe a former UFC fighter, Ronaldo Exon, and Hyoji Kudo. I'm talking about Hyoji Kudo. In my opinion, Brendan Lofton, he robbed Hyoji Kudo, bro. Hyoji Kudo won that fight big time. He won the first round dominantly. He definitely, I think it was the second round he won, and then there was a foul in the third round, and then it ended up going to Brendan Lofton. In my opinion, I think Kudo won that fight. He was more aggressive on the feet. He was landing more. Anyway, we move on. He fought this guy called Argo Huskic, who took the fight on, not even joking, we're talking about 2 days' notice. Argo Huskic steps in there with an 8-4 record, taking on Brendan Lofton, who was like 23-4 at the time. Brendan Lofton couldn't finish him. bad look, and then he fights Chris Wade and beats him, which is a very good look, to be fair. Chris Wade is an older guy. I think we're going to see Bubba Jenkins used to wrestling, man. I think he's got a massive wrestling advantage in this one here. I think he's going to take down Brendan Lofton. I think he's going to control Brendan Lofton and just kind of annoy him, put him on his back, work the ground and pound, work some submission attempts as well. We have seen Bubba Jenkins put in some bad positions on the ground by Chris Wade, but this year I think it just looked a lot more dominant than Brendan Lofton. It just looked a lot more impressive to me, in my opinion. So give me Brendan Jenkins, Bubba Jenkins, not Brandon Jenkins, Bubba Jenkins to use that wrestling and win a decision here. It's not a confident pick because Brendan Lofton is a really good fighter, but at the end of the day, Bubba Jenkins has just impressed me a lot more this year, and that wrestling advantage is something that he's going to lean on, and I think he's going to get Brendan Lofton to the ground and use that grappling, use that top control, and get it done that way. And now in the main event, you've got Kayla Harrison taking on Larissa Pacheco, and you can see here Kayla Harrison versus Larissa Pacheco third. And Kayla Harrison is undefeated, so that tells you how the first two fights went. Kayla Harrison beat Larissa Pacheco both times, but Larissa Pacheco, she's no joke. She's actually a bit of a beast on the feet. She gets so many KO wins. She knocked out this girl called Zamzagil in the first round, the first minute and a half. She knocked out Gina Fabian in the first round, which is a pretty good win because Gina Fabian's a city kickboxing prospect. She knocked out Elena Kolesnik in the first round as well. In fact, she's actually on a massive first round KO streak, but I think it's going to stop here against Kayla Harrison. Maybe she could throw up like some sort of crazy upset here, but at the end of the day, Kayla Harrison is pretty big for women's 155, and she uses that size very well. She's obviously the Olympian in judo, gold medalist as well, I believe 2 times. And she just uses that judo very well, and she's just not beating that good competition. Like, she's just not. Her whole career has really been just winning millions and millions and millions of dollars for PFL. It's kind of crazy. Like, she beat Larissa Pacheco here by decision, and then she beat her again by decision. And apart from that, she's just been finishing girls by submission, by ground and pound, and just making it look not necessarily easy, but just making it look like she's just the much better fighter, which is why a lot of people are calling for Kayla Harrison to fight in the UFC or fight in Bellator or something like that. But at the end of the day, like, why would she? She's literally getting at least $1 million a year. I think I read somewhere that she's getting like $500,000 just to show up or something ridiculous like that. Like, she's getting paid a lot of money for PFL, so it wouldn't really just make sense for her to go over to I don't think it's 500,000. I think it's like 150k or something like that. But anyway, the point is, she's getting paid a ridiculous amount of money just to show up. She's getting paid a lot of money to win these tournaments, $1 million a year. You know, put the math together. Why would she go to UFC or Bellator from her perspective? But obviously the pick's Kayla Harrison. I think she's actually going to finish Larissa Pacheco here. I think she's going to use that size and ground and pound and tee off on Larissa Pacheco and end up with a ground and pound TKO or even maybe a submission. Maybe Larissa Pacheco can catch her on the feet at the start of one of the rounds, but aside from that, I think it's going to be Harrison on top of Pacheco and her winning that way. So I'm giving Harrison by inside the distance. I understand that she has gone the distance with Pacheco twice already, but I think it's time for a finish for this Harrison-Pacheco trilogy. It'll be interesting to see what happens at 155 pounds coming up, because I feel like Harrison, I think she said in an interview that she's not going to come back. So maybe that tells us that she's going to PFL or Bellator. Maybe that tells us that she's retiring. So it'll be interesting to see maybe Pacheco and Aspen Laird are like the 2 top dogs of women's 155 next year. But going with Harrison by finish in this one here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video talking about PFL. Just a little bit of extra content for you guys on the We Want Picks channel. I'm trying to make this look a little bit more professional. I just realized I didn't have my overlay for my face cam up the whole time. That's a little bit embarrassing, but it's fine. It happens. And yeah, looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great event. I think it's going to be awesome. And I'm looking forward to it again. I've said it like 4 times in the last 30 seconds. Yeah, I'm terrible at intros. Apologies, Angelo. But yeah, thank you guys for watching the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you haven't already, do subscribe to the We Want Picks channel. We upload videos all the time. I'm on the channel occasionally for Bellator and PFL, but I do have my own YouTube channel, as I mentioned in the intro. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hopefully you do enjoy this PFL upcoming card. It should be interesting. There's no UFC on this weekend, so what else do you have to watch? It kind of is not too much option, aside from a lot of boxing events, but I'll move on from that. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.